Hello, James here. Decided to make a video, and before I go into the topic, and I was wondering, I heard something about the issue on racism, and I was thinking, how would I go about it? And I wondered if there's some people who are believers that are racist, that they love the name of Jesus. And these people, and it's not, this don't necessarily, but just talking about the racist people is in these different countries, and the damage have racism did. So I decided to read scripture, and it describes Jesus. And the Bible describes Jesus as black, so why do our churches depict a white man? And this is off a website. This is off a website called Narwin. And why I'm going through this? Because according to Revelation 7 and 9, according to Revelation, Revelation, I'm sorry, wait a minute, Daniel, the Bible describes here it is, Revelation 1:12 to 16. And Daniel 7 and 9. This is short.
So now we have carburetor cleaner, or brake cleaner, inside of a 223. It smells like ether and shit. Or, you know, like a boat truck.
This is what burnt brass look
like.
like.
That shit up. That's cool as shit. The burning bullets. Tilt it over and then set it. Dude, I wouldn't do that. Just give me some more cleaner. Fuck the head. No, come on. Why you wanted more cleaner? More cleaner for everyone. That's fucked up, dude. I hope the camera got that. I didn't mean to. It's been recording the whole fucking time. Dude, I didn't mean to do that. Now your fucking brass is burning. Is it? Yeah. That's cool. That's so retarded, dude. I can't believe I got you. Sorry. Well, it's smoking. That smells like ass. Yeah. Eventually, that fire's gonna go inside the tube. Nope.
But anything, I'm going to read the scripture. His feet were burnished bronze, refined in the furnace. And what that picture showed you was what a burning brass looked like. In according to Daniel 79, as I looked on the throne in the Ancient of Days, and take a seat, his clothing was white as snow, and his hair was hair like pure wool. His head was like pure wool. Black people are the only race on earth to have woolly hair, according to this article. Revelation. So, what? Now, what am I doing before I show you get to the point of where I'm gonna show you facts, and I'm gonna play a little of this video. It's gonna show you the artifact. This is from Black History. Hebrews had the dark evidences of the Old Testament.
Hey, what's up, everybody? It is Dante Fortson. I'm here with part 2 of addressing the evidence. Today, we're going to be looking into the Shemites, or the line of Shem. So, if you have not yet subscribed to my YouTube channel, make sure you do so. Hit the thumbs up button as well, and if you want to be notified whenever I post new videos, hit the little bell. Click that bell, and you'll get notifications whenever I post new videos. Also, go to blackhistoryinthebible.com so you can read a lot of stuff that I got posted up there. In between the videos, it's a ton of research, 4 years worth, articles on different individuals of the Bible. But before we get into all of that, I don't want to get sidetracked. For those of you that have been asking, how do you support this ministry? You can go to patreon.com/Dante Fortson if you want.
I'm sorry, it's kind of long, but you can go to his channel. It's called Hebrew Had Dark Skin, Evidence of the Old and New Testament. And Dante, he's a good researcher. This man, Dante Fortson. And here's some more scriptures. My skin is black upon me, and my bones are burnt in heat. Job 30:30. When the text makes it clear that Job's skin was black, many point out the Hebrews mourned and repented, covering himself with ashes and sprinkled ashes. Song of Solomon says, I am black and comely, O ye daughters of Israel, of Jerusalem, as the tents of Kedar, as the curtains of Solomon. Look not upon me because I'm black, because the sun hath looked upon me. My mother's children were angry with me. They made me the keeper of the vineyards, but my own vineyard has not yet kept. Song of Solomon. Lamentations, then her Nazarites were purer than snow. They were whiter than milk. They were more ruddy in body in rubies. Their polishing was sapphire. So Lamentations is their vintage is blacker than coal, and they're not known to the streets. Their skin cleaved to their bones and is withered, and it became like a stick. This is in the Bible. And this is Lamentations 5 and 10. So why I'm getting to the point. Revelation 1 and 15. This is what brass look like. When you burn it, it's dark. What people, does that look like olive to you? It's not olive is green. Because people like to say that the one who was on the earth was olive skin color. He wasn't. And he's not coming back as an olive skinned man. And it disguised the Ishmael's generations, according to Genesis 25 and 13. And these are the names of sons of Ishmael, and their names according to generations are firstborn of Ishmael, I can't say name, Nephoth, Kedar, Abnit, and Messen. I can't say any name right. Niger, Simeon, was black-skinned. Now there in the church was Antioch, certain prophets and teachers and Barnabas. Simeon was called Niger, and Lucas of Syrian and Manaen, and he brought up to the hair of the tetrarch of Saul. Acts 13:1. I'm about to get into my topic. What I'm about to tell you. I want the people on the outside, not just white, but I hope they come from Middle Eastern. I hope there's somebody Spanish read what I'm about to tell you. And the Lord said furthermore unto him, put thy hand into my bosom, and his hand in his bosom. He took out, and his hand had leprosy. Exodus 4:6. While this isn't a hardcore evidence of having dark skin, the act of turning white and light skin even whiter doesn't seem like much of a miracle. However, the dark-skinned person as white turning snow might be something to talk about. And the cloud departed from the tabernacle, and Miriam became leprous, white as snow. And Aaron looked upon Miriam, behold, she was a leprous. Numbers chapter 12 and 10. The leprosy have Naaman cleave unto thee, and unto thee seed forever. He went out from his presence, a leper as white as snow. 2 Kings 5:27. And these are the pictures. These are ancient pictures of the people in the Bible. The earliest depiction of Christ. This is the early depiction of what do these people look like? And the people who they tormenting in countries like in Tunisia, what Tunisia going on right now. Why are they doing this? Why are they tormenting people that look like this? You say, what am I talking about? I'm glad you asked. I'm about to show you something that's I'm talking about. First is this is talking about, we're gonna go to this one woman, her name was Lady Boulay.
We all want our dishes to look as great as our food, so add Finish Jet Dry. Because when your dishwasher starts rinsing, Jet Dry is released to make sure your dishes come out dry, practically spotless, and with the ultimate shine. Start with Finish, finish with Jet Dry.
Huge savings at Bass Pro Shops and Cabela's during our spring fishing classic. Save big on the brand new.
And I hope there's some Dominicans are watching this video too. I want them to see this video. I hope there's some Spanish speaking people watching this. I hope.
Hello, this is Lady Boulay, and I hope you're having a fabulous day. Thank you for your support. Thank you for subscribing to the channel. Thank you for your thumbs up, for your comments, and thank you for sharing the videos. Thank you for all you do to support the channel. Well, I'm talking today about why so many black people run away from blackness. And when I say black people, I'm talking about people of African descent. Whether you're on the continent of Africa, whether you're in the United States, South America, Latin America, Central America, the Caribbean, Europe, Asia, Australia, wherever you are. This message is about you if you're running away from your blackness. In the United States of America, we really didn't have a choice, so we didn't have the option of running away from our blackness because America had that rule. One drop rule says if you have one drop of African blood, they called it blood, you are black. So it didn't matter how much interracial mixing went on and how light you ultimately came out to being. If they knew you had one drop of black blood, if it went all the way back to the Stone Age, to that one black grandmother, you were black. So we didn't have a choice. We had to learn how to live with it. We had to learn how to embrace it, even in the face of slavery, degradation, abuse, violence, oppression. Everything but the kitchen sink, including the kitchen sink, was thrown against them. But they were still black. And the black, Dr. Martin Luther King said, your skin tone was a stigma. So you couldn't get away from it if you were black. And that isn't to say that everybody wanted to be black. So people did look for escape routes. Passing was one way to get out of it if you were white enough to get away with it. Throughout the American slavery system, there was this mixing of white men with black women. And in some cases, there was so much intermixing that some of them came out looking white. If you fit that mold, that was your escape route into white society if you wanted to take it. And it was called passing. When someone decided to pass, they had to cut all ties with their blackness, their family, their friends, their community. The most effective way to do it was to move as far away from your community and people that knew you as you could get, and deny all access, deny all acquaintances. If someone from your hometown recognized you in New York City, you ignored them, you pretended not to know them. That was what you had to do to pass, because if by chance somebody like your husband discovered that you had that one drop of black blood, you were messed up, and you might even have to pay a fine or go to jail, because now you're impersonating a white person. So that was one of the ways that some people tried to get out of blackness, and it was extreme, and it didn't always turn out like they hoped it would. There were two movies made about this, Imitation of Life and Pinky. In both cases, young women who looked white decided to pass into white society. They abandoned their mothers and went on off and lived this life of a white woman. And then at the end of their mother's life, they got word that she was dying and she really needed to come to see the mother. And then they come back in crying with regret that they passed up all that time that they could have had with their mother. But then it's too late. But my takeaway from each one was that passing doesn't pay, because you got to give up everything and everybody that you care about to try to live a life that you think would make you happy, which it may or it may not. But the reality is most black Americans didn't have any avenue of running away from their blackness, because we didn't have anywhere to go. This whole thing about going back to Africa is ridiculous, because we're not citizens of any African country, and most didn't have any money anyway in the past. So we didn't have any avenues for running away from blackness, so we had to run to it. And so that's where we got this, I'm black and I'm proud, say it loud, and black is beautiful. We came to realize that we might well get over this because we don't have any way out. So we had to live with it, and we had to deal with it. And that's what we have done. And I say we, I'm talking about the majority. Now, what inspired this video was a video that I saw on, I think this was Jenny O again, where this black guy was talking about Dominicans and making fun of Dominicans. Black Americans have a lot of fun making fun of Dominicans because they say, I'm not black, I'm Dominican. And black Americans are saying, no, you're black, you have one drop of black blood. And in the United States, that makes you black. I think people really are getting away from that. But I think black Americans who have had to live this for hundreds of years decided that, well, we had to go through this, so you're going to go through it too. So I think black Americans are just having a lot of fun with them, but the Dominicans get really mad about it. And they start talking about how proud they are of their culture and how black Americans can't make them black, and they just go on and on with these long explanations about why they call themselves Dominicans. But the bottom line, for many black Americans, it just looks like you're running away from blackness. Now on the screen is what a lot of them look like. Some of them have looser curl or even straight hair sometimes. But this is what they look like typically. Now you decide for yourself what they are. They reference their skin tone, how light they are. Some of them are very light skinned, some of them are not. light skin and loose textured hair is very prevalent among black Americans. But the lightest skinned black American will call themselves black because it's not about your skin tone, it's about your state of mind. Sammy Sosa is a good example of what dark skin does to a Dominican. Sammy Sosa is a retired professional baseball player. He was dark-skinned with broad features like many black Americans. But somewhere along the way, he decided he needed to change his look. So he bleached his skin and
You see, that's sheep that got wool hair.
to look less black. Now, I'm not
Black
really
people
sure
have
what his
wool hair.
explanation was or is for changing his look.
That's what described in the Bible, Revelation,
Because
wool hair.
apparently, dark skin in the Dominican Republic is a stigma. Now, Michael Jackson, the late Michael Jackson, a well-known black American, looked like he was trying to turn himself white too. Well, they claimed he had some kind of disease, vertigo, I think is what it's called. That is a disease that can strike black Americans where they have large patches of white skin, and some parts of their body actually will turn white. So that is legitimate. And I would believe that about him, except when he got ready to have children, he went and got white children. Now that's a discussion for another day. But that's an example of a black American looking like he's trying to turn himself white. The difference is that black Americans don't deny blackness. That is not something that we do, going around screaming to the world that, well, my skin is just a little bit lighter than somebody that might be darker than me, so that puts me in a different demographic. I think down in Latin America they do that. Every degree that you get away from blackness, really dark skin, that puts you in a new demographic. And everybody's trying to get into that new demographic. Keep going up the ladder to whiteness because blackness is a stigma. I do want to make this point. I'm not saying that we don't have colorism issues in black America. We absolutely do. But to deny your blackness is blasphemous among many and most black Americans. But now it's at a point with Dominicans that this issue of blackness is front and center. And there are those who want to run around here screaming, I'm not black, I'm Dominican, or accusing black Americans of causing dissension and trying to impose blackness on them. It's all very interesting, but it's also all very stupid because it's all based on skin tone. And this is where I have to come in with my commentary.
Amid global market
So
volatility,
basically,
stock market
the
losses
Dominicans
and rising inflation have left investors with few
some
options.
Dominicans
Ground Floor is here to help.
don't
With a
accept that
reliable way to earn cash while
they
saving
want to be
for the
part of
future.
this.
Close to 200,000
But it's on their
users have
skin.
transacted nearly $1 billion
She's right.
on Ground Floor's investment
And guess what?
platform and have earned consistent double-digit cash
This
returns 8 years
is
in a
described
row.
in the Bible,
Ground Floor, your
of
financial
Christ's-
future is yours to control.
Christ
Join
and
us
Revelation.
today at groundfloor.com.
So to my Dominicans and others who have the problem with skin, so you're going to deny that you're not part of it? You're going to deny the color? Are you ashamed of the color? The ones that have this problem? Because the Lord wasn't ashamed.
Blackness in the human race has been demeaned and degraded all over the world. It does not matter where you are. The darker your skin is, the more discrimination you face, the more prejudice you face, and the more anti-blackness you face. Everybody is trying to get away from blackness. That was the thing. Now that is what white supremacy brought into the world. That I'm white and I'm superior, you're black and you're not. And the darker you are, the less not superior you are, which is to say you're inferior. So inferiority was placed on blackness. But not only that, treatment was placed on blackness. Slavery, colonialism, theft, murder. The long arm of white supremacy came down on blackness. So this idea of not wanting to be associated with blackness has made its round around the world. The merchants of white supremacy decided that they were going to make Africa the scapegoat for their hatred and their greed mostly. Their greed, this was all about greed and going into Africa and stealing everything that wasn't nailed down. And then telling the Africans, you're nothing, you've not made any contribution to society. So anybody that resembles Africa is going to get that work. You're going to get that treatment. So everybody is running away from it, trying to run towards whiteness. But here's the bottom line. These people haven't accomplished anything. I don't know of anything that the people of the Dominican Republic have accomplished. I don't know anything that they're known for. I don't know any accomplishments that they are known for. What have they contributed to world civilization? What have they contributed in the advancing of humanity? So I went and looked it up to see what are their accomplishments. The only thing that they came up with as an accomplishment was the dance merengue. And I know about that dance because I used to go to Zumba class and we used to do it. But guess what? That dance was created by the Africans that were enslaved down there. Just like these dances up here were created by the Africans. That's the only thing. They have a long history about conquest and about who controlled the Dominican Republic for how long. They have a lot about their history. And a lot of it has to do with the history of the Western Hemisphere.
So you shame of Christ?
Or Portuguese or French coming
of
in
the real
and
Christ
taking over people's
in
resources
Revelation?
and enslaving people. They have that.
Are you
But
ashamed
when it
of
comes
him?
down to sheer
You want to be part of
accomplishments,
him?
They don't have anything. But they're lighter than Black Americans. They're lighter than Haitians. That's their accomplishment. That is not an accomplishment. And Black Americans are the right ones to call this out. Because we have bragging rights in the world. Because we have made advances in the world. Things that have improved the human condition, including inventions and creating systems that have improved the employment situation, the labor market, and the quality of life of people all over the world. We have done that. We have done it all. There is nothing that you can bring up, no discipline in the world that African Americans haven't had a serious hand in developing something or making something better. And that's not even talking about entertainment and sports. And I can back up everything I said. So we have bragging rights. These people haven't done anything. All they do is talk about, I'm not black. I'm not black. This is ridiculous. And it's another thing. I had said I was not going to do this video because I thought, well, maybe it's just being a little bit too frivolous. But then I saw what was going on in Tunisia. Tunisia is in North Africa, the part of Africa where those Arabs went in and took over the Black Africans, the real Africans, countries. So I'm going to finish this video talking about 3 North African countries that discriminate against Black Africans: Tunisia, Morocco, and Egypt. Black African people are being discriminated against in Tunisia on their own continent based on nothing more than their dark skin. The president or some high official in Tunisia gave a speech in which he was concerned that the Black Africans were changing the demographics of the country, meaning that he was afraid they were going to make the country darker. So here again, you have a country of people who have made no contribution to the development of mankind, but they are focused on their skin tone. And look at Morocco. Morocco won the World Cup in soccer. It was either last year or this year. Soccer is a big deal everywhere but in the United States. And so when they won, this Arab woman came on a video saying that that was a win for the Arabs. That was not a win for the Africans. Because the Africans, all of the Africans, including the Black Africans, the real Africans, were trying to celebrate with Morocco because that was the first time an African country had won the World Cup. And they came in and they wanted to make it clear that that didn't have anything to do with those Black Africans. And the reason I'm mentioning this is because when she began the video, she said the Black community. So I thought she was talking about Black Americans because we refer to ourselves as the Black community. And I was thinking, I said, Black Americans don't care about no soccer match. But then she was talking about Africans, Black Africans. And I didn't know they referred to themselves as the Black community. And great if they do. But that's what she was trying to say. This has nothing to do with you Black Africans. And I'm thinking, how can you take that kind of a nasty attitude over a soccer match? And the reason is because they haven't accomplished anything. They're very proud of their lighter skin. That's all they got going for them. call this colorism out because people all over the world are suffering from this colorism. The Hindus, East Indians, have a caste system, and they are classified from the top to the bottom. Kamala Harris is in a top caste, the Brahmin, but they have the Dalits. They are the bottom caste, and they're called untouchables. Some of them have migrated to the United States too, but those lighter-skinned Indians are trying to impose that same caste system on them here in the United States. And they have been complaining, they have been filing complaints with the government about those lighter-skinned Indians trying to impose that caste system on them in the United States. And out in Seattle, the Dallas just won a case where Seattle has banned any kind of caste system out there. Those light-skinned Indians got mad about it. But those people were celebrating just like slavery had ended for them. And this is why black Americans, I think, should continue to speak out. The black kids are just having fun with it. But I think they should keep doing it. And look what happened to Kevin Hart on the basis of him saying that the ancient Egyptians were black. And you can see that if you look at the artwork and the sculptures and things that they left behind. But on the basis of him saying that, the Egyptians got so mad at him that they canceled a concert that he was supposed to do in Egypt back in February. And this is all because they don't want to identify with black people and dark skin. So people are running away from blackness because it's scary, it's painful, it's hard. But if you never stand up to these bullies who are making you run away, you're just going to keep running. So somebody has to take a stand. Everybody can't run. And for the people who don't.
Okay, I'm going to stop it right here. Now I'm about to show you a website. 17 Bible verses about skin of color of skin. It's called Bible Verses. 17 Bible verses about skin color. And I'm just not, and you can write these down. 1 Corinthians 12 and 15. Revelation 1 and 15. Romans 1 and 16. Galatians 3 and 28. John 7 and 24. Songs of Solomon 1 and 5. Acts 17 and 26. Acts 10, 34 to 35. 10 to 34 to 35. Revelation 7 and 9. 1 Samuel 16 7. Genesis 20, chapter 25, verse 25. Revelation 5, 9, 10. Daniel 10 and 6. Jeremiah chapter 13, verse 23. Lamentations 5 and 10. John 3 and 16. Isaiah 53 and 2. 1 John 2 and 11. Lamentations 4 and 8. Why did I read those scriptures out? For the people that are bigots against black people, read those scriptures. And if you pick up a Bible, this can apply to anybody walk of life.
Hola.
Read those scriptures.
Afternoon, everybody. I know this is
Read
a
those
bit of a
scriptures.
surprise, 'cause typically on
If you think
Wednesdays, I go
so, if you
live
got
at
something,
7
the Bible said,
Eastern,
if you don't like
and
your
the
brother
sun is
that's in the earth,
currently 2
what makes you
p.m.
think that
Eastern.
God's going to accept you in His
Which can
kingdom?
only mean one thing, that I have a guest who is somewhere on the other side of the world.
Sorry about the
And
background.
I didn't want her to have to get up.
But what makes you think that God is going to accept you? And I don't care if you're from any of these nations and other. Because when you die, there'll be black people in heaven. I hope you know that. And other people. And for the ones who want to put the caste system out there, yeah, you're going to have to answer to the one that made all of us. And He don't have no favorites. And maybe what you think by white supremacy, God switch it around and make the darker ones could turn it around and make you think that they subject to you. They subject to you. You'll be subjected to them. And He'll do it by His kingdom. And if you don't, you won't have no choice because you go straight to the pit. But I'm gonna play this video, what she was talking about.
Does your skin feel extra
This on
dry
Al
and sensitive?
Jazeera.
La Roche-Posay Lipicard Body Cream helps support the skin's
But I read those
living
scriptures.
ecosystem
I hope
of
somebody,
microorganisms on your
Middle
skin.
Eastern, Spanish, anybody,
Restore skin's barrier.
anybody got this bias against skin color?
Hydration for the whole family.
I just read those scriptures to you. Anybody watch this video? Share it with somebody. You've been convicted. You're an indirect racist person. You're convicted. This don't necessarily have to apply to a white person. It can apply to anybody.
$30,000 cash. This Jeep is fully equipped with a 4.5-inch Evo Stage 4.
Welcome to the stream. I'm Ahmed Shahabuddin. People in Tunisia are sounding off over an increase in racist violence and hate speech against sub-Saharan migrants and refugees from Africa. The outrage follows xenophobic statements by Tunisian President Kais Saied and other officials using anti-black racist rhetoric. Today we ask what's driving racism and violence against
Isn't
black people in
in
Tunisia
the words
and
of
what
God,
can be
Allah?
done
You think
to
Allah would
address it?
approve of that?
And of course, we always want you to join the conversation, so be sure to share your thoughts and questions with us on YouTube. Joining us to discuss from Tunis, journalist Elysia Folkman. With us from Dakar, Khawla Kiksiki. I think I got that last name wrong, but activist and co-founder of Voices of Black Tunisian Women. And last but not least, from Tunis, Amna Galali, Deputy Regional Director for the Middle East and North Africa for Amnesty International. Thank you, ladies, for joining us. So much to discuss in today's show. I want to start with the basics for those who don't know what's happening. Elysia, could you tell us what's driving the crackdown on migrants here?
Well, this is actually nothing new. I've been reporting on police arrests and violence towards black people for some years now. What sort of, I think people became aware when the Forum for Economic and Social Rights published another 300.
That's where some pictures at.
arrested,
Russia.
Been arrested in February. Now this happened last year. And what the police are saying is that it's because they don't know what's going to pass your residency card. But this is something that's actually ridiculously difficult to obtain because the bureaucracy is so heavy, and people wait and pay and never get their cards issued. And then they have these sort of seasonal crackdowns that are about the shots which gives you a hunt when police surround usually metro stations and they capture black people and shake them down in parts of the world. If we don't have that, then they arrest them. There are also forced expulsions from the border police. So this is kind of an explosion of something that's been going on for a long time.
Right.
I think it's fair to say that Tunisia.
I'm gonna give you a little history. You know when they say Jesus of Nazareth in the Bible? You know what Nazarenes had? And like Solomon had, they had locks. They had locks. If he would have locks. Jesus had locks. This ain't Jesus, but he would have had locks. The Nazarene people, Jesus of Nazareth, they would have their hair in locks. That's the only people can do that is people that look like this. So this is to the ones in the Arab world, the Christ that we look to.
think that the economic situation, the fact that Tunisians are really suffering from a huge economic crisis and it's increasing every day, it's so classic, it's so standard, we see it everywhere. People always look for something to push, for someone to put the burden on it. The fact that sub-Saharan black persons and migrant and refugees are now in Tunisia and they are visibly different, and we have this historically heritage of racism, of segregation, of xenophobia. We always seen acts of racism. So I think that the economic situation and the president's statement made it worse for sub-Saharan African migrants and refugees in Tunisia.
Right.
So
I was gonna ask, the perception and a lot of the rhetoric seems to suggest that black migrants are taking over the country, that there won't be a country left for others. And I just want to clarify in this tweet, Larry Madou saying there are 20,000 sub-Saharan Africans in Tunisia compared to a population of 12 million. So they're not taking over. The president's comments echo the great replacement theory that's popular in right-wing European and North American circles. He's being accused of racism. So I just want to know, Amna, when we hear that he's being, excuse me, let me just pop through here on my screen. I'm trying to get to, yeah, there we go. I just want to get to this. So is this, Amna, to you an example, clear-cut, where the president is inciting violence against black Africans in Tunisia?
Thank you for the question. I think it is quite clear from the statement of the presidency that the words that he used and the words he uttered and those that that were published on his official page definitely can be interpreted as inciting violence, because he didn't only mention that illegal undocumented migrants should be migration should be controlled.
It was broad.
But he said things which are really very serious and which incite violence against the migrants. He accused them of being sowing violence in Tunisia, of inciting also crimes. So he's stigmatizing them. He's stigmatizing the whole community. And this is what we call racism, this is typical racism. The president and his entourage and the people who are very close to him, including the Minister of Foreign Affairs, tried to whitewash the president and tried to, downplay the racist aspect of his words. But this is what we call racism, is accusing a whole population, a whole community of being at the heart of a problem that a country is going through, using them as scapegoats, as you rightly, asked earlier on. I think it's really very clear that the president and the official, discourse of the authorities in Tunisia are using the black community and black migrants from sub-Saharan Africa as scapegoats to blame their own failures to tackle the economic and social crisis.
And of course, to clarify for our audience, it's migrants, it's refugees, and then there's also a broader implication about just black people in general. Right, and Alicia, go ahead, Alicia.
There's actually, even calling them all migrants is stereotyping and very racist. The official figures are just over 21,000 of people in the sub-Saharan diaspora. 8,000, over 8,000 of those are students who are paying for their university education or their professional training in Tunisia. These are people who are paying in 3,000 to 4,000 euros a year in hard currency.
Yeah.
They have to pay for the carte séjour. They pay 1,000 dinars, but normally it's 150, and the administration won't give it to them. So there's a big problem generally, not just from the president, but we're labeling people people
Yeah.
with a term that's now become very
Yeah.
general.
So if I may, I mean, we have a lot of people on YouTube. Before you get started, I just want to say, Luganda and YouTube saying there's a huge identity crisis with nations of Northern Africa. When I first started living there 5 years back, I had a big culture shock. And there's a lot of other comments where people are just very disappointed to be seeing the rise in anti-black racism. So I want to ask you, let's talk a little bit, if we can, Khawla, about the actual conditions for black residents in Tunisia. A researcher with Human Rights Watch who specializes in refugee and migrant research, Lauren, sent us this video. Take a listen to what she had to say. And sent us this video. Take a listen to what she had to say.
Human Rights Watch has spoken with over a dozen individuals, black sub-Saharan Africans, who have been targeted for arbitrary evictions, for violent assaults and other abuses. And people are currently homeless, in need of immediate assistance and shelter, but also people need effective protection by state authorities to ensure that actually those who have committed these attacks will be investigated, arrested, prosecuted, and that sub-Saharan Africans in Tunisia will no longer face arbitrary arrest and detention solely on the basis of skin color.
Khawla, there seems to be a kind of a dismissal that this is even happening. Like, they keep deflecting, the president seems to be maybe gaslighting. What do you make of, what can you tell us about what it's like for black residents in Tunisia, particularly these migrants and refugees?
So I will follow up, in fact, what has been said about migration. I would like to precise that 18,000 Tunisians migrated to Italy on 2023. So, and that's what explains racism. Because normally Tunisians are migrants and they go all over the world, but when it comes to black persons coming to Tunisia, it's different. And we treat them differently. The president has another treatment for them. We had Syrian, we had Libyan refugees, but we haven't ever seen this kind of discourse. So, and in fact, I'm not in the best place to talk about what refugees or migrants from sub-Saharan Africa are facing.
Sure.
I think they are in a better position to talk about, but I will talk about what a black person in Tunisia is dealing with, and I will share my experience.
Well, Khawla, I was gonna say, I mean, you must experience harassment and abuse on your own, correct? As a Tunisian.
Of course, I will share something. It's not my story. It's the story of all the black Tunisian women, because it's institutionalized, it's historical, and it's systemic racism. For myself, when I want to relate to migrants from sub-Saharan Africa, sometimes they think that I'm not Tunisian, and in this 2 minutes or 2 seconds in which people think that I'm not Tunisian, I receive a double aggression. When people think that I'm not from Tunisia, they insult, they attack, they sexually harass me, and when I speak in Arabic, sometimes they say sorry, sometimes they not. So it's so clear that there is cross-discrimination, and I want to look at it from intersectional lenses. It's cross-discrimination. People are facing xenophobia and racism at the same time. People are facing it in institutional, because the state made their statement about it, and they were so clear about it. They are facing social discrimination and violence, and individual violence. So what I want to highlight here is that we are in so complicated case of cross discrimination, especially with women, migrant or refugees, with the complicated situation. They are facing a lot of aggression, and it's so frustrating for them, and it's so marginalizing for them.
And that intersectional sort of angle that you just shared with us, I think, is important, because I want to share with our audience some other things that are happening sort of socially around this online. Black Tunisians like yourself are posting photos of themselves online with their Tunisian passports and IDs, and this is because black people are being warned, that they should be carrying their IDs in case they get stopped or harassed. So, this is kind of a beautiful act of solidarity online amongst Black Tunisians with the migrants and refugees that are kind of getting the brunt of it now from the institutions and authorities. And as we see these pictures, I just wonder, Amna, a lot of this racism that we just heard outlined from Khawla, a lot of this is ingrained deeply in Tunisian culture and, dare I say, Arab culture. I mean, this comes from the slave trade, and I just wonder if you could comment on why you think, beyond the economic situations, is this just a taboo topic? Is it something that's become so normalized, the way that people in Tunisia refer to Black people?
It is a taboo topic in the sense that it hasn't been, analyzed enough through studies or discourse, deconstructing this discourse on Tunisians. Whenever you talk to Tunisians, for example, they would say, "No, we are not racist. We don't have that in our culture," and so it's really a taboo issue. But I just also wanted to mention that despite the fact that it is somehow a taboo issue, and the fact that there is a lot of racism and it's ingrained in Tunisia, there were some steps forward, from a legislative point of view to tackle this racism. So in 2018, Tunisia was the first country in the Middle East to enact a law to fight racism, and this law basically prohibits, discrimination, and prohibits also all forms of racism.
Well, I'm not. Forgive me for jumping in, but so the laws are on the books, and this is not often something that's unusual in other countries as well. The law is there to protect them, but is it actually being used, or is it more just, I hate to say it, but for PR purposes?
It has not been really used. It's not a for a PR purpose, because this law is the result of the fight of hundreds of people, including people in civil society, people who are, who fought very hard for this law, and people who are in, associations or organizations to fight discrimination on racial basis. So it is definitely something that was a success story, in the sense that the fact that Tunisia enacted this law was really very good, but the problem is the implementation on the ground, and the fact that the institutions in Tunisia are still not prepared to implement this law.
Yes, most certainly, and I want to hear directly from some of these migrants themselves, who are kind of explaining their precarious predicament, for lack of a better way of putting it. In this case, a Sudanese and Ivorian migrant. Tiglis.
Make this your best golf season yet at Dick's Sporting Goods and Golf Galaxy. Try the latest game-changing
migrant. Tiglis.
The situation is getting worse and worse. When we walk in the street, people bully and insult us and ask us to go back home. The situation has become unbearable. We appeal to the UNHCR. Enough is enough. As the Tunisian people do not want refugees in Tunisia, we ask them to be repatriated even to Niger or Rwanda.
Everyone is free to live in an African country. We are all Africans. Why so much racism? You live in your peace in your country, but here we do not live in peace. So really, I ask the President to see all these small problems. We are brothers. Ivory Coast, Mali, all Africans, we are brothers. We must help each other. We must love each other. That's the most important thing.
Now, at the same time, Khawla, of course, we've seen a lot of solidarity, protests, people speaking out about this online. I wonder, do you think this is a flashpoint? Where do you expect this to go as people search for solutions for solving Tunisia's economic and political situation, but specifically this issue of anti-black racism? Do you anticipate it getting worse?
So to answer to your question and to follow up what Emna said about the law, in fact, me, myself, as a black Tunisian person, relatively privileged.
Yeah.
Oh, before I go, I want to show you this video. This is out of Ukraine.
So recently there was a video that came out where this woman in the UK was saying that Ukrainians were complaining because their kids was going to school with black people and Muslims and Indians and all these different other groups of people. They didn't like it whatsoever. And some people was kind of shocked that they actually came over there with this kind of racism. Well, you got one of our brothers that's actually going to be addressing this issue. Let's roll that clip.
Not everyone wants to live in a diverse area. Then they can go home. Trust me, the rest of the world wasn't like jonesing for a large influx of knuckle-dragging, weirdo, caveman-brained, racist Ukrainians. But however, if they want to continue their caveman lifestyle, they can go right back to that little pile of rubble that used to be their hometown. I don't care. How about we just stop giving them weapons? You know, cut down on the diversity of resources. I know how much they hate diversity. Like, bro, you can't be a beggar and a racist. Take your broke ass back to that little dirt patch, man.
If you study anything about Ukraine, they actually have a division in military that is neo-Nazi. And yet, the United States government has been given
I did a video
a
on this
country
one.
that has a neo-Nazi division in their military, me and your tax dollars. And you see those people, they don't even like black people. And yet they're taking black people's tax dollars and giving it to them. And notice, where's all these financial experts? You know, we talk about reparations. Where's these financial experts saying, I ain't paying it, and I'm not going to be responsible, yet all your tax dollars are going to over there, and you're not saying you're not responsible? And I feel the same way that brother feel. If you don't like black people, you don't like Muslims, you don't like Indians or anybody else, carry your happy self back to Ukraine. Go back over there and you go deal with your issue and your problem over there. It's just that simple. See, one thing I always say, definitely we don't need to be importing no races over here. We got enough. We up to our neck full of races. We don't need no more. We don't. And I will say this, and they come over here with that. Look, black America is totally different. We will react totally different than what some of our African brothers and sisters are going to react to you. Trust me on that. But yeah, they leaving Ukraine and they coming over here and coming over to different places within the Western world, I will say this, and then they have an issue with black folk. Well, just keep your kids at home. I don't know what else to tell you. See, in Ukraine and places like that, they don't have hardly no black people. And look, I was done with Ukraine when I saw what they did to my African brothers and sisters. When they let the dogs on the trains and left the young brothers and sisters out there to feed for themselves.
I did a video on
in a
that.
war-torn area, feed for themselves, while they just say, no, not you, only I was done with them. They lost any support. I'm like, I'm all good. I can care less. Because when I see you do my people that way, I got to stay on code with my people. And I always want to stay on code with my people. But let me know what y'all think what our brother has to say here. You know, like say, you say pick a struggle. No, that's the entitlement that these people have. You know, the white supremacists. They no matter what their condition are, they're going to always make sure they got a hatred for people that look like me and you.
La Roche-Posay.
Wow. And I have video about that. I have video on my channel about Nazis. And now you see that racism is international and different people got international stuff. And like that woman says, those 3 countries and Ukraine. But the funny thing about Tunisia, they're Arabs. So the Ukrainians wouldn't want to be next to the you see how dumb this stuff is? Like, you got to think that there's other people in the part of the world. You're in the middle of a country. People are dying in your country. People are dying. Starvation, medication, and you got time to worry about what another race of people do. And you think the Almighty God that created all these people on this planet, you think He would approve of that? But they feel justified in feeling like that, being racist towards people. Say, I'm not used to it. Well, nobody don't get used to something. Some people ain't used to probably being homeless when they had things before. It's something you deal with. You don't get no luxuries in life. You be thankful. And the same Ukrainians could have died, been the ones that they still bombing and being victims of bombs, dropping by their next door cousins, the Russians, and other people. But you got time to be racist. Wow. The ignorance not in the world it just amazes me. But the reason why I read those scriptures, but that hopefully that it can be translated to some of the languages. I hope it translates to a language. I hope you know what you're doing when you got something against another people about their skin color. And I had to reveal the one in Revelation because the Bible is translated to all different books. So what you reading in your language, whatever part of the world you in, that's the God you're gonna see. That's the resurrection. So the resurrection is described when we would see Him. And some people who died probably already seen what the resurrection looked like. And you got that hatred in your heart, you think and that bigoted, that prejudice, He's gonna show you how ugly when you stand before Him, how ugly you really are about it. And I'm not using the Bible as racist. I'm showing you directly the way it is. I'm not using to promote one black over white or nothing like that. I'm being balanced with it. Maybe somebody will get the message. That's the whole point of this message. You want to die being a bigot? You want to die being a racist? Well, there's a special place for you. And people who think like you. Imagine you go out throughout all your life on the earth and you don't like another human being that's opposite of you because of the state of condition. Imagine that if you was both Ukrainians, Tunisians, and these other people would leave, some of them who have that bigotry like that president. You think he's going to be in the kingdom of God? You think he's going to be in the kingdom of God? That's my question to the ones who's Tunisian Americans who got that mindset. Because I know some of them probably here too. Nope. They're going to be right down there, joined down there with Satan. Being biased. Because, see, Yeshua, Jesus, ain't going to let you into heaven. See, you better enjoy your bigotness, your racism, your prejudice while you're on the earth. Because if you die being a bigot, it's shame on you. You're going straight to the lake of fire. That's the truth. And that's the message to the bigots and the racists and the prejudice against people that look like me or any group of people. You got another thing, because you can't ride alone and think that what you prefer and what yours is first that's not the way life goes. The reality of the world in the eyesight of God, He picks who He loves and picks who He chooses. It's not about race. And maybe if those Ukrainians who go to church understand that, and you're not going to just have Ukrainians in heaven. I hope the Tunisians understand that. I hope the Dominicans understand that. It's not about your skin color. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed this message. Share this video with somebody who got that mindset. And that's why I read the Bible scriptures. They can look it up for themselves and let the Spirit of God show you what I'm talking about. Alright then, you guys be blessed. Till next time.